The house at the end of Oak Ridge Lane had stood for nearly a century. Its bones groaned in the wind, its windows wept condensation, and its wallpaper clung to the walls like aging skin. Mara had never wanted to live there. But when Jude inherited it from his grandmother, there was no question. They would move in. "It's got history," Jude said, smiling as he pushed open the front door. "Real bones, a foundation." It had a smell, too. Earthy. Old. The kind of scent that settles in your lungs and makes a home there. The furniture was covered in white sheets and dust lay thick on every surface. In the center of the dining room sat a table. It was massive, carved from dark oak with legs like twisted claws. 6 chairs surrounded it, each one tall, backed, and solemn. The varnish had long since dulled, but the wood looked dense, heavy. "That thing must weigh a ton," Mara muttered. "Handmade," Jude said. "She told me it's been in the family for generations." "It can stay right there." Mara turned to leave. "I don't want to throw my back out trying to move that thing." They left it, covered it in a new tablecloth, dusted it weekly, ate their meals at the kitchen counter. Until one day, the kitchen counter felt too small. They decided to have dinner at the table. It was a quiet meal. They sat at opposite ends, the distance between them exaggerated by the size of the table. The air felt heavier there. The lights buzzed faintly overhead. Mara had the strange sensation of being watched, though she couldn't have said by whom. After dinner, she pushed in her chair and paused. "Did you move it?" she asked Jude. He looked up. "Move what?" "The table. It feels like it's not centered anymore." He glanced at it, shrugged. "Maybe the floor is slanted." They went to bed, but Mara didn't sleep. The next morning, all 6 chairs were pulled out from the table, just a few inches, as if someone had stood up. Mara stood in the doorway and stared. "Did you notice this?" Jude came beside her. "Weird." They pushed the chairs in, checked the locks on all the doors, sat up a baby monitor facing the dining room. That night, the table didn't move. But the next morning, one of the chairs was knocked over. Jude frowned at the footage. No one came in. The chair just fell. Mara started marking the floor with tape. Little white pieces placed where each table leg touched the floor. On the 3rd night, one piece of tape was crooked. The table had moved half an inch. Jude grew quiet. He stopped laughing about the house's charm. He left the dining room light on at night. One morning, they found deep gouges in the wood floor, parallel lines like claws, dragging. Mara watched the footage again. At 3:17 a.m., the table shifted. It vibrated once, then dragged itself a few inches forward. The chairs scraped along with it. "What the hell is that?" Jude asked. "Burn it," Mara whispered. They hauled the table outside, soaked it in lighter fluid, lit a match. It flared, hissed, and died. The table smoked, but wouldn't burn. The wood stayed cool. When they woke up, it was back in the dining room. The floor beneath it was blackened with soot. They brought in a priest. He was an old man with cloudy eyes and a voice like crushed leaves. He stepped into the house and went still when he saw the table. "It was carved from a tree that should never have been touched," he said after a long silence. "They call it the widow tree." "What is that?" Mara asked. "An old tree out past the villages of northern Belarus," the priest said, not taking his eyes off the table. "They said it was fed by the blood of a woman who cursed her family before hanging herself from its branches. Every generation another sacrifice. It grew darker, stronger. They say anyone who carved it for use brought the curse into their home." He stepped back. "This isn't just a table. It remembers everyone who's ever sat at it. It feeds on pain, silence, and attention. It can only be still when it is being watched." "So what do we do?" Jude asked. The priest shook his head. "You shouldn't have brought it in. You shouldn't have eaten at it. That was an invitation." He left without blessing the house. That night, Mara began dreaming of the table, of mouths opening in the grain, of whispers. She started talking in her sleep. Jude found her one night at 4 a.m., sitting at the table, eyes open. "Who moved the forks?" she asked. He looked down. Dozens of forks were stabbed into the table, forming a star. Jude stopped going to work. He stopped showering. He stayed in bed with the curtains drawn. But sometimes, Mara would hear his footsteps at night, downstairs, pausing at the dining room door. Then, one morning, he didn't come to bed at all. Mara found him beneath the table, folded neatly, eyes open, forks in his hands, a single strand of black hair in his mouth, coiled like thread. She screamed and ran. She grabbed the baby, keys, nothing else, drove until the gaslight came on, slept in the car. The house was sold. No one asked questions. The table stayed, too heavy to move. The new family put it in the basement. Their daughter whispers to it now, and it whispers back. It told her about the ones who sat before. It promised her a place at the head of the table. At first, the parents thought the whispering was imaginary, the signs of a lively imagination. But then, cutlery began to disappear. Forks and knives found jammed into the drywall. A single spoon found in the fish tank, bent backward. The basement light began turning on by itself. The daughter stopped sleeping in her bed. Instead, she would be found in the mornings curled up beneath the table, smiling, humming songs her parents didn't recognize. "I'm learning the rules," she said one morning. "If you set the table wrong, it gets mad." Her mother laughed, until the silverware drawer was emptied. Again. The table began dragging itself up the basement steps, one step at a time, inch by inch, the sound masked by rain or late-night TV. By the time they noticed, it was already in the hall. One night, they found their daughter sitting in one of the tall chairs, her back perfectly straight. "We're waiting for dessert," she said. "You should sit down." The next morning, the chairs were full, each one set perfectly, plates gleaming, forks aligned. The mother swore the shadows behind each chair looked longer than they should have. The father tried to move the table, but it wouldn't budge, not an inch. And later, they found their daughter at the top of the stairs, whispering to someone just out of sight. "We have to be ready soon," she told them. "Everyone's coming. It said so." The house is quiet now. Windows drawn, lights off. But some nights, if you walk past and the breeze is just right, you might hear the clink of silverware, the scrape of a chair, the soft echo of a voice, childlike and pleased. "The table is set,"